What's going on, everybody? What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, everyone? I hope everybody's having a wonderful day on this Sunday afternoon because I'm having a wonderful day. Because a lot of people are going to church, a lot of people are staying home, a lot of people are watching the game that's going on, and a lot of people are just watching news about what's going on locally, throughout the world, globally, internationally, and just with things that's happening in Hollywood. If you're new to this channel is called The Real Simon Says. My name is Simon, and on this channel, what we talk about things that has to relate with current event, with social structure, with the economy, finance, education, inspiring, many other things. So we cover a wide range of things that relate with everyday life. And the main goal is just to be able to point out the things that's actually affecting people's daily life. So this is why this channel was created. Like I say from the beginning, this channel is called The Real Simon Says. And my name is Simon. So I named it after myself. And I hope you guys enjoy the contents that's being created. So if you want to support me, I would like for you to please just subscribe, share, and just leave a comment. First thing first, before we get started of the topic of today, I'd like to thank first God because without him, I won't be able to be here. Without him, I will not be in this position that I'm in. Without him, I will not be breathing today because we have to give thanks and be thankful for the little things that God have given us, for God have provided for us. Many people put God aside when it comes to many things, especially when you receive what you're seeking. But it's always good to just thank God for everything that He has created for you, everything that He has given you, and everything that He has provided for you. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'm gonna thank is everybody that's supporting me. So far, I have 150 subscribers on this channel, and I'm hoping to reach at least 1,000 before the end of this year. And I support and I respect and I appreciate everyone that's supporting me by subscribing, by liking, by sharing my video. And I really hit the goal of reaching about 1,000 subscribers before the end of this year. And I would like to hear your comment, what I could do better, what I could talk about more, and things like that. And the third thing, I'd just like to thank myself. It's always good to also thank yourself, especially knowing that you have to go through a lot of things in life to be able to be in a position that you're in. You have to be able to work hard. You have to be able to deal with so much obstacles. But when I reflect upon my life, how far I came, I had to face a lot of obstacles. And at some point, I felt like quitting, I felt like giving up, but I didn't. And I chose to just keep grinding, keep going, and keep working hard. And here I am, for my inspiration, my motivation, and all that things. So I just want to thank myself, and I just want to thank God also for providing everything for me. Um, so today we're going to be talking about Portland. Recently, Portland is on the news again by President Donald Trump, where he mentioned that he's sending a troop inside Portland. What a lot of people don't know is that I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life. I actually grew up in Portland. I just moved out of Portland in 2023, just recently, and now I live in the Midwest. I spent a huge portion of my life in Portland. I lived in Portland ever since 2006 until 2023. So I spent a huge portion of my life in Portland. I went to middle school. I went to high school. I went to college in Portland. I have a lot of memories in Portland. Portland, I consider as home. I consider as my hometown because I lived there for a huge portion of my life in Portland. And living in Portland, it was great. It was great. A lot of memories. Portland is actually a city. It's a small city compared to other cities in the United States. It's a smaller city to cities such as Detroit. It's a smaller city to cities such as Seattle, but they have their own way of operating because in Oregon, they put more emphasis on, environmental issues. For example, in Portland, I remember you can't use plastic bag in the stores. In some places in the US, it's kind of not heard of. Also in Portland, there's a lot of weird things that happen. They have like the naked bike parade every year where people actually be going around parading butt naked under bike. I guess it's a tradition in Portland that always happened. The first time I encountered that, it kind of shook me because I was driving with my mom, and we stopped at a red light where the police was escorting people that was parading. We didn't know what was going on. Then once we looked, we realized most of the people were butt ass naked, and you see a bunch of old people, young people, old ladies with their breast all saggy, body all just wrinkled. It was just weird seeing such a thing, but that's Portland. You know, I really liked it, Portland, but so far it has been on the news, and you would be surprised that so many people don't even know where Portland is located because it's a city that I'll say is pretty unique. When it comes to the transportation system, I think it has one of the best transportation system in the US because they have like a metro train, they have a pretty efficient bus system. You can basically move around Portland without really necessarily needing a vehicle. And I think that's why it's so attractive to so many immigrant or refugees because most of them come over there and they utilize the system, and plus it's also a democratically run city compared to other cities out in the US. And ever since I've been in Portland, it always been a democratically run city. It doesn't mean that I'm indoctrinated by liberal mindset or anything like that. No, not everybody in Portland is like that, unlike how the media is portraying it to be. But there is a certain group of people, there's a certain portion of people in Portland who are basically indoctrinated in those liberal mindset, especially when you go to the university. Because I graduated from Portland State University. It's located in downtown Portland. So I spent a huge portion of my time, about 5, 6 years, in downtown Portland because I actually was on campus for about a year and a half. So I kind of was walking around campus, seeing everything that was going on, the type of program that they had, the type of indoctrination that they had, and so many other things. So Portland has always been a place that I consider home. Until now, I still have family members that's there. I have two of my sister and one of my brothers, and a couple family members also, like cousins and distance friends, and people that I went to school with. And so far, Portland to me has been a great city because I lived there for, I would say, close to 20 plus years. So Portland has always been a great city to me. And seeing it on the news, seeing that the president just mentioning that he will be sending the National Guard inside Portland, it kind of made me kind of question a lot of things of like why. Because one thing I realized is the media is a powerful tool. Because I remember when I was in Portland, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020 and during COVID, the media was portraying, especially the national media, such as CNN, Fox News, and all that things. They were portraying Portland like it's a war zone. But it wasn't the case when I was living there. Yes, there were people who were a little bit rowdy. There was people who were a little bit crazy, but the media plays such a huge role to portray a city such as, people are just getting attacked and this and this and that. Yes, Portland has a lot of issues. One Portland main issue is homelessness. We have a major problem with homelessness in Portland. And it got to the point where when you go to downtown, there's places that look like a third world country. There's places that look like when you see on video about the Skid Row in California. And it's a problem that been going on for years in Portland, ever since I've been in Portland in 2006, and ever since I left Portland in 2023. So Portland has always been a city that has a lot of issue, a lot of drug issue. Um, but the media portray it as a place that is basically burning, a place that's basically just out of order. Based on my experience living in Portland, being there from 2006 to 2023, it didn't seem like that. It did not seem like that. And I realized that the media plays such a huge role of portraying all these places, such as, you know, Portland, and even like places like Detroit. Because currently I live like in Detroit. And before I even moved to Detroit, from Portland to Detroit, when you look up the city of Detroit, you're just saying, oh, there's a lot of rundown building. There's a lot of people who are, committing a lot of crime. There is, abandoned building and so many other things. And as a person who's really thinking about it, you look at it and you just start wondering, like, wow, is it really worth it moving there? Should I listen to the media? But unfortunately, my parents didn't move here, and they say it was fine. Yes, there's certain area of the cities that is not safe for people to go and things like that, where it's a high risk and high crime. But they've been here for the past 7 years, and they say nothing really has happened. So I think the media plays such a huge role in portraying places such as like Portland, Detroit, and other places as, it's a battleground. It's a messed up place and this and that, this and that. So for me, based on my experience and my time living in Portland, I think I had a great time in Portland. I think Portland is a great city, regardless of what the media say, regardless of what, the presidents say, because I know there's people who will try to portray it, as a place that is run down. I have family members there. I call them and talk to them, ask them. I'm like, what is going on in Portland? Because, on the media, they're talking about this, and that. Portland is run down. Portland is basically going crazy. Is this true? They're like, no, it's not. Like, maybe there's a certain area in Portland that's probably, dealing with this situation, but not not the whole city. The whole city is safe. People are, going on with their own day, doing their own thing. Uh yeah. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it on live about Portland because I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life. I spent a huge portion of my life there. I went to middle school, I went to high school, I went to college. And so Portland has always been a part of me in a way. So when I saw the president mentioning that he's sending a troop to Portland, it kind of got me thinking like, oh, snap. Let me try to look into this. Let me try to do a little live and to talk about it. So here's a video that I want to share and see what the media is talking about when it comes to Portland.
We're taking another live look out at the ICE facility on Southwest Macadam Avenue in South Portland right now. There is a much...
Whoa, man, amazing car. When did you become a millionaire?
What is this for?
We're trying to get advice for the younger generation.
I made my first million last year, actually.
What line of work are you in?
I'm in sales.
We're taking another live look out at the ICE facility on Southwest Macadam Avenue in South Portland right now. There is a much larger presence of protesters than we've seen in recent days. It looks like, as you can see on your screen, some protesters burning flags. So far, things are relatively peaceful, but we did see one protester being tackled by federal agents and taken into custody earlier tonight. We'll check in once again with Ezra Kaplan in just a moment. To recap what's happened since yesterday, though, we now know that the United States government has beefed up the presence of federal law enforcement officers in Portland, around the federal building downtown and at the ICE facility on Southwest Macadam. We're still waiting to see when any U.S. troops will be deployed, and the White House is not giving any details. Local leaders are urging any protesters to remain peaceful despite the threats and to avoid any direct conflicts with federal officers.
Yeah, I think the burning of the U.S. flag, it should not be acceptable. I think it's unacceptable to burn the U.S. flag because, this is a country that, provide a lot of things for a lot of people. And regardless of what you think about it, whether you like it or not, the flag represents something because there's a lot of people who have died for the flag. There's a lot of people who actually laid their life for the flag. And to burn it down, it's kind of like spitting on the grave of the people that laid their life for this country in many ways, shape, and form. So for me, burning the flag is unacceptable. But this area, the federal government area, actually, I know where it is. It's basically in downtown, southwest area of downtown. And there is like a metro that passes right next to it. And I'm pretty sure they're planning on sending troops over there, because I remember doing the Black Lives Matter movement. They put a fence around that whole federal building with like bricks and stuff like that, because people were planning on actually going inside the building and causing a lot of chaos. And so the government put like this huge fence around those federal building, because right next to the federal building, there's the justice system. And across from it, there's a little small park, because I memorized it because I was always walking that area, especially when I was going to Portland State University, which is located in downtown Portland. So that area, I'm pretty familiar with it. And so I'm not surprised that, you know, people are trying to cause a lot of issues in that building, because it's the federal building and it has to relate with ICE. And one thing also about Portland, it has a huge refugee and even immigration movement over there, especially people who coming from California. They move up to come to Portland for some reason. I don't know.
The couple hundred people who marched there earlier tonight did exactly that.
So local officials held a press conference earlier today speaking against President Trump's decision to send federal troops here to Portland.
One of those officials was Portland Police Chief Bob Day, who says his officers have not been facing any challenges when it comes to Portlanders expressing their rights to free speech.
We have had an amazing year of free speech expression, and I have no doubt that will continue. We have had literally tens upon thousands of Portlanders walking the streets, in our parks, expressing their First Amendment right, their opinion, their dissidence with what they're seeing happening on a federal or even a local level. And yet we have not had arrests, we have not had vandalism, we have not had challenges that we have faced in years past. We have a track record that we are demonstrating to one another, and we are demonstrating to the country about how this is being done.
And again, we've been monitoring the ICE facility in South Portland throughout the day.
Yeah, and that's where we find Fox 12's Ezra Kaplan. He's been there all day long. Ezra, how is it looking out there right now? Have you seen the situation evolve over the night?
Yeah, not a whole lot of change out here at this point. Still, I would say probably about 100 protesters. I'm going to have Devin give you a look at the scene here. He's just going to show you around. We are seeing a person seems to be burning an American flag right across the street. You know, as you're kind of seeing there is just as much media, maybe a little bit less, but there's a lot of media out here, and there's a handful of protesters. But I think what's really important to understand is that this is really anything from a war zone. You know, as we've said before, there have been times where this area has flared up and there have been confrontations. We also know that the U.S. DOJ has prosecuted, or is beginning to prosecute, at least 25 individuals for federal offenses, for federal crimes that they're charging them with here at the ICE facility. Now, to me, what that means is that the federal justice system is working. There are people who have committed have allegedly committed acts of violence and other things. They're going to court. They're having their day in court. That's how things are supposed to work. And so, you know, I want to show you a little bit of video that I also took earlier today. If we can show that. That is a video that I took of what you'll see is a whole convoy of vehicles coming into the ICE facility. And this is something that we started seeing actually yesterday. Now, Fox 12 was the first to report on the arrival of more federal officers who began to amass in Portland yesterday. We had reporters across the city as convoys took off from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection offices in Northeast Portland, and then arrived at the federal building downtown, as well as the ICE facility here on South Macadam Avenue. Now, what we don't really know, and we haven't gotten information yet on, is exactly who is coming to town. That being said, we also have talked to folks here on the ground who have been living with this day in, day out for many months now. One of those people goes by the name of Minnie. She has an Instagram account called Balcony Lady. I had the opportunity to speak with her just a few moments ago, and she has a unique perspective because she's not a protester. She lives here and has witnessed it from her balcony night after night. Take a little listen to what she had to say.
Some of the stuff that you see on the news, you don't see the full thing. Like, you don't see the rallies of the elderly ladies coming down here and putting flowers down there. And you don't see the interfaith rally, where they're walking down here with signs, and the monks. You don't see the ladies with their rugs sitting right there, crisscross applesauce holding a sign. You don't see that. But you see the chemicals, and you see protesters running away when they're being shot at and hit with shields with their back turns as they're trying to help somebody up. I don't know how all of that is translated into Portland as a hellhole.
I have to agree with her because I lived in Portland from 2006 to 2023. So I spent a huge portion of my life in Portland. So I know the city pretty well. And I also spend a lot of time in downtown Portland because I went to Portland State University and I graduated from Portland State University. So I kind of have to agree with her in a sense, because currently I still have family members who are living in Portland right now. And it just made me realize that the media is a powerful tool. The media will portray a place like, it's a shithole, like it's a war zone, like it's going crazy and things like that. But in reality, it's probably not as drastic or dramatic as it seems, because the media has the power to basically portray someone as an angel or as a demon, depending on whatever agenda that they're trying to push. So when I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life, yes, there was things that was going on, but it wasn't to the point where, when we just feel like, our city is unsafe, because I'll say Portland is probably a safe city compared to many places here in America, especially when you're walking at night and things like that. Especially, I remember when I was in downtown Portland going to Portland State University, and I was taking night classes, like classes that would end around 9 or maybe 10 p.m. Usually I'll spend the time to just walk downtown all the way to the metro, which will be about 15-minute walk. And I'll have my earphone on. And I've been doing that for the past 6-7 years and never had an issue, never had an incident where someone is trying to rob me or, hurt me or anything like that. And keep in mind, Portland has a lot of homeless. But most of the homeless people that I've encountered in Portland were people that were just, down under luck. Either life have just whooped their ass or they just could not get a hold of life. An incident happened where they probably got a divorce and they end up being homeless, or incident happened where, the medical bill just buried them and things like that. So there was a lot of people that were homeless, but it did not get to the point where a lot of people got hurt. And I never experienced that from the time that I was living in Portland.
And as you can hear right behind me, there really has at various times been a party scene down here. I mean, this is a lot of folks who've gotten together. Just as an example, and this is something that Minnie referenced, earlier today we saw several hundred folks gather down the street a little ways and then march this way. It was a group of interfaith individuals, and they were doing a silent march. It's down here, and they just did 3 loops right around the front of the facility. They laid flowers down at this blue line that says U.S. government property, and that was it. They kind of they were holding signs, they expressed themselves, and so there's a variety of different ways that people are coming to this place to express how they feel about the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department. But as you heard from Minnie, it's really not a war zone. So with that, I'll send it back to you guys, and we'll stay on top of any developments down here.
Okay, thank you, Ezra, for that. Tonight we are.
Imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it.
We're taking another. And so we're taking another live look out at the.
So yeah, I'll have to agree with most of what I was saying. It's really not a war zone in Portland, because if you lived in Portland, you will know what I'm talking about. And I understand the president is just doing his best to try to make sure the city is safe, and he's getting his information from the media based on the people that have a different agenda than him. But I have family members who currently live in Portland. I have a brother and two sisters actually that live in Portland, and I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life. I will say I don't think it's a war zone like how a lot of people are portraying it to be. I don't think it's worse than Chicago, in my opinion. Portland is a much smaller city compared to like a place like Chicago. Portland is a much smaller city compared to a place such as Memphis. Portland is a much smaller city compared to a place such as St. Louis. And all those cities have a higher rate of murder crime compared to Portland. Because in Portland, when I was living there, yes, there was murder here and there, but it wasn't at the point where we hear like in Chicago, where you hear in 1 week 50 people got shot and 10 are dead and things like that. In Portland, we never heard that. Yes, there was a couple shooting that happened. Yes, there was a couple kidnapping, couple robbery, couple burglary, and those type of crime, but it wasn't to the point where you are concerned and you are kind of scared of your life. So I think the media plays such a huge role. And I understand that this has a lot to do with ICE, because I think recently in Portland, one of the ICE bus was basically torched because someone threw like a firebomb at it and basically lit it on fire. And I think this is why probably the president is sending in troops to make sure, federal building is protected, which it does make sense. But I don't think Portland is a war zone like how the media is portraying it. I don't think it is. I think Portland is it has its own vibe. It has its own, things that they do compared to other cities. There's a slogan in Portland. I remember when I was growing up in Portland, it says, "Keep Portland weird." And yes, Portland is weird. When I say weird, I mean like liberal weird, but but it's a good place to live, other than the liberal side. And because Portland been run by Democrat for a huge portion of the time that I've been there. So yeah, so I'll just like to share this video, and here's the governor of Oregon talking about President Donald Trump potentially sending in troops. Let's listen to it.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me and the group of elected leaders and community leaders behind me. We are in the central city of Portland, Oregon, and it is a beautiful day. And we are very happy to be here speaking with you today. In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city. Military service members should be dedicated to real emergencies. The members of the Oregon National Guard, their mission is to stand up and protect Oregonians, and they will do that every day, but they are not needed in the city. They are not needed here. And you can tell because you're here with me in Portland. You can see that this city is safe and calm. It is a beautiful day to be here. For those of you who are here downtown or watching at home, you know that our city is not the place that people think it is from years ago. There's business thriving. People are coming downtown. They are enjoying this community. We have students who are ready to go see the Lion King tonight at the Keller Auditorium. People are going to the Timbers match. People are downtown shopping. Folks who are getting ready to go to work, at the restaurants here that make the Rose City a culinary capital are getting ready to go to work. People are shopping. People are going to the farmers markets or at the Saturday market. Portland's doing just fine. And I made that very clear to the president this morning. Our city is a far cry from the war-ravaged community that he has posted about on social media. And I conveyed that directly to him. That we got this, we are good, we are doing fine.
I agree with her. I completely agree with her. Yes, Portland has a lot of issues. Portland has a lot of problem when it comes to many other things, such as drug problem, addiction, homelessness, and many other things. But it is a far cry from what's happening in places such as Chicago, Memphis, St. Louis, Washington, D.C. It is a far cry because I live there in Portland. I'm not speaking just based on my opinion. I'm speaking it based on my experience living in Portland, because I lived in Portland from 2006 to 2023. And I just recently moved from Portland. But I spent a huge portion of my life. So what she's talking about, I'll have to agree with her, because I have family members that's still living in Portland that was telling me, listen, I don't think it's as bad as the president is making it seem like. And I kind of don't blame the president, because he doesn't have the time to be able to actually watch the news or get information, because he's busy with international affair, he's busy with domestic affair, he's busy with tariff, with things that's happening all over the world. And he can just depend on the people that are just advising him in his ear. And sometimes most advisor for the president, there are people who have a different agenda based on the people who actually donated for his campaign and things like that. So for me, I'll have to agree with her. The fact that I don't think Portland is close to being a war zone like Chicago or like Memphis or even like St. Louis.
And I also said to him, we have to be careful not to respond to outdated media coverage or misinformation that's out there. We know what's happening in our own city, and we are doing just fine. That being said, we do face real challenges in Portland, as does the rest of the country. We're worried about the cost of living. We want our schools to do what is necessary for our students, and we want to make sure that people have good jobs and homes that they can afford. I need help for those kinds of things, and that's the kind of help I need, not having military troops from the federal government in our state. President Trump's inconceivable insistence that we need federal troops in Portland does not address the real concerns in our communities. We do not need or want federal troops in Oregon stoking fear, creating conflict, and frankly, escalating a situation that is under control. Any federal takeover with military troops in our state is a threat to communities across Oregon. It violates our right to govern ourselves. It interferes with local law enforcement's ability to fulfill their mission. And frankly, it drains taxpayer resources that could be better spent elsewhere. And again, I communicated that to the president directly. Oregon is our home. It is not a military target. Any deployment would be an abuse of power and a misuse of federal troops. People across the state and across the political spectrum here in Oregon are uniting together to peacefully oppose policies that they do not agree with. I believe in free speech and the ability to lawfully and peacefully protest.
We are strong. We come back. We push forward.
And I have a message for Oregonians. Let's not take the bait. Let's not respond to what the president is trying to do. We have to raise our voices absolutely peacefully to the things that we believe in. But I also want to say that any property damage or violence of any kind will get us nowhere and will not be tolerated. If you want to stand in opposition to the Trump administration, I would ask that you lean into supporting your community, helping people, making things better here, because that's who we are as Oregonians. I just want to wrap up by saying I believe the president does not have the authority to deploy federal troops on state soil. I'm coordinating with Attorney General Dan Rayfield to see if any response is necessary, and we will be prepared to respond if we have to. Oregon has not requested any federal assistance, and nor do we need it. Thanks very much, and now I'd like to pass over the mic to Mayor Keith Wilson.
I'll have to agree with her again because I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life, from 2006 to 2023. And a lot of people, when they hear about the state of Oregon, they don't understand that Oregon has around, if I'm not mistaken, close to like 3.5 million people. And a huge portion of the population, if I would probably say about 1.5 million, live around Portland area. So majority of people in Oregon live close to the Portland area. So Oregon is basically empty compared to other states because we only have about 3 to 4 million people statewide, and a huge portion of them live in Portland. Portland is like the economic hub, and it's not even the capital of Oregon because the capital of Oregon is Salem. And if you go to Salem, it's basically a countryside. And I think the second or the third biggest city is probably Eugene, which is on the other side. And Eugene is known for the Oregon Ducks. And Corvallis is known for the Oregon State beaver. So Oregon, when it's talked about the news, is mostly talking about Portland, where the Portland Trailblazers are located. And ever since I've been there, there hasn't been really any major issue where it's required for the national or for the federal government to send in troops. Because when you compare the crime rate that's happening in Portland, when it comes to murder, homicide, it is way lower compared to a place like Chicago, Memphis, St. Louis, Nashville, Dallas, Atlanta. Yes, all those are bigger cities than Portland, but when you compare the murder rate in Oregon, it is way lower compared to other cities. Yes, there's certain crimes that happen too, like carjacking, kidnapping, and things like that. But it's nothing compared to the homicide or the murder rate that we're seeing in places such as Chicago and Washington, D.C., New York, and things like that. So for me, I don't think sending in the troop in Portland is necessary. Not because I have family members that live there, not because I lived there for a huge portion of my life, but knowing the city of Portland, spending a huge portion of my life there, I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's necessary. I think the best way to do that is probably to provide some kind of funding, to probably even work with the governor and the mayor of the city to be able to find what is actually needed for the city instead of sending in the troop, because it would just make the population more nervous. It will make the population more agitated, and you will always have some kind of person with a loose screw that will try to create some kind of chaos in the media, such as Fox News, CNN, will try to blow this up, portray it as a place where it's a war zone. And I don't think Portland is a war zone compared to a place like Chicago.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. And also thank you to the friends and colleagues that are standing with me today. Appreciate you on such short notice coming out to show your support for Portland. I'll jump right in. President Trump has directed all necessary troops to Portland, Oregon. The number of necessary troops is 0 in Portland and any other American city. And let me repeat that. This is an American city. We do not need any intervention. This is not a military target. The president will not find lawlessness or violence here. I've been so deeply disappointed to see the footage from a half decade ago, recycled and then recycled again. If President Trump came to Portland today, what he would find is people riding their bikes, playing sports, enjoying the sunshine, buying groceries or produce from a farmer's market, as the governor had noted. We've had hard conversations and we've done important work in the years since that footage was taken. We reformed our public safety system. We've refocused our community and on our economy. And we've redoubled our efforts to help our most vulnerable. In fact, we could use federal help for all those things I just listed. Imagine if the federal government sent hundreds of engineers or teachers or outreach workers to Portland instead of a short, expensive, and fruitless show of force. On Monday, I will gather with a dozen regional mayors to sign a joint statement modeled after that of Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, who received the same ugly threat of military deployment as Portland now has. Like Mayor Johnson's executive order, our statement will be one of values, of caring for our community and caring for each other. And that's what we need right now, not occupying troops.
If you don't understand the rules of power, you will certainly lose to someone who does.
It will also cover the standards that we hold ourselves to and the standards that we must, as a nation, hold our federal law enforcement and military to. We have a place at the table for everyone willing to lend us a hand, and that should include the federal government. Again, I am so deeply disappointed with the federal government's irresponsibility. At the end of the day, this may be a show of force, but that's all it is. It's a big show. And after big show, everyone goes home, and that's what I want to happen here today. In Portland, we have a long and proud tradition of peaceful protests. We have a long and proud track record of being at the forefront of positive social change. There are new risks today, risks that we do not yet fully understand. The administration has refused to elaborate on what they mean when they say they will deploy full force against our city and citizens. I will also say this: avoiding the unknown element will not help us prevent from joining together to bring our voices and speak as one and call for an end to federal government unwanted, unneeded, and un-American deployment to the city that we all love. Thank you for coming here and thank you for joining us. And I'd like to return this and turn it over to Congresswoman Bonamici.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you.
I have to agree with the mayor again, because me living in Portland from 2006 to 2023, I don't think it's necessary to send in the troop, because I have family members that's living there, and I call them, and just to verify, I'm like, hey, how's downtown Portland? Is everything okay? How's downtown? Is, you know, people are just going crazy? He said, no, there's just a pocket of people who are probably just pissed off about the policy, or they don't like the president, or they don't like ICE coming inside the city, who are causing that chaos. But it's not like the whole city of Portland is like a war zone, like how the media is portraying it to be. And some of the video could potentially be what happened in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protesting that happened. And it was a case where, yes, there was a lot of people who was rowdy, and some of them took advantage of the situation, and they started breaking inside buildings, inside stores such as Apple Store, Nike stores, and a lot of luxury stores that was in Portland, and just taking a lot of stuff. And I believe some of the video was being used and shown to the president or people around the president. And in their mind, they're thinking Portland is probably a place that is just a war zone, but it's not the case.
Governor, I'm Suzanne Bonamici, and I proudly represent Oregon's 1st Congressional District, where we are right now. I share Portland with Congresswoman Maxine Dexter. On the outskirts, we have Congresswoman Andrea Salinas and Congresswoman Janelle Bynum. And we're here as a delegation to say we do not need and we do not want federal troops here in Oregon. This is a gross abuse of power by the president. He does not have the authority to send military troops to a city. And I tell you, I am in Portland a lot. I was at the ICE facility a couple of days ago. I was in Portland yesterday on the east side for a meeting, and last night for an event. Nowhere did I see one single indication that we need military troops here. I strongly oppose this action by the president, and I thank the governor and the mayor for their words. And I also want people to understand that Portland is a place of possibility. It's a place where here today we see the sun shining, people out in the streets, shopping in our stores, going to our amazing restaurants. We have amazing businesses here in Portland, and that is what Portland is about. It's a thriving, wonderful community, and sending military troops here will only make it dangerous, not just for people in Portland, but for the entire region. We need to stand together as a community, and we know how to do that in Portland. We respect the right for peaceful protest, and for people who want to do that, please be peaceful. We all want that to happen. We want people to exercise their free speech rights peacefully, but we also want to send a message to this administration. There are so many things you could be doing to help Portland. You could let us hire back the federal employees you fired. You could send us the dollars that Congress appropriated for infrastructure, for housing, for education. Those are things that will help Portland. Sending military troops here will not. So the congressional delegation stands together with the governor, with the mayor, with the business leaders and everyone, the elected leaders who are here today, saying no military troops in Portland. We are here to say no. We are here to say Portland is a great city that's thriving. No military is welcome or needed here. I agree with the mayor. The number of necessary troops is 0. And now it's my honor to turn it over to Bob Day, our Portland Chief of Police.
Peace for Portland. Over 3 decades, that's been a personal mission of mine as I've served the Portland Police Bureau and I've served the community. And it doesn't change just because of today's events. And it doesn't change for the Portland Police Bureau because of today's events. The men and women of the Police Bureau will continue to show up and to provide the highest level of service and safety to ensure peace for Portland, for all Portlanders. We have had an amazing year of free speech expression, and I have no doubt that will continue. We have had literally tens upon thousands of Portlanders walking the streets, in our parks, expressing their First Amendment right, their opinion, their dissidence with what they're seeing happening on a federal or even a local level.
There are giants among us, building our Navy's next generation submarines.
You've been working from home, but your roommate just took up percussion as a hobby.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do.
And yet we have not had rest, we have not had vandalism, we have not had challenges that we have faced in years past. We have a track record that we are demonstrating to one another and we are demonstrating to the country about how this is being done. I fully expect that to continue. I fully expect there to be more events similar to what we have been seeing, and I fully expect Portlanders to continue to show up in the manner in which they do. And I am grateful for that. It is safer for them. It is safer for our officers. It helps our community thrive. And we are, and I am in alignment with what you've already heard, encouraging that expression of free speech. Finally, this does not change in any way our performance or involvement in immigration. Portland Police Bureau continues to adhere to the rule of law. We are not engaged in immigration enforcement. We are not participating or supporting any kind of immigration administrative work. I've been very transparent with our community and our leaders. I am in regular contact with our federal leaders on the law enforcement side, just as I have been in the last 24 hours with our immigrant leaders and also protest organizers. The role of the Portland Police Bureau is to continue to remain in the middle, to continue to be a steady, peaceful presence that ensures safety for all. Peace for Portland. I'm confident we've demonstrated that, and I'm confident we will be able to continue to demonstrate that. Thank you.
So after this video, I'm going to try to look at the agent to be able to protect the federal building. I understand that, but I don't think Portland is at the point where you have to send in troops, the National Guard, to be able to secure the streets of Portland, because I lived in Portland from 2006 to 2023. So I spent a huge portion of my life in Portland. And yes, there's people who are rowdy. Yes, there's people who are creating a lot of chaos, but it's not in the scale where people are portraying it to be. I think, because I lived in Portland and I have family members currently right now who are actually in downtown who are telling me, listen, yes, there's a small pocket of people who are actually dealing with, who are creating this type of chaos in Portland, but it does not need the National Guard or the troops to come in to be able to secure the place. So that's just what I think.
I turn this over to Vanessa Sturt.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to everyone for being here this afternoon. I'm representing the Portland Metro Chamber, the Downtown Portland Clean and Safe, and our Charitable Institute, the largest business association in the state of Oregon. I'm the president and CEO of TMT Development. We are a major property owner in the city and a multi-generational family-owned business. Portland is a city on the rise. We are working to tackle our biggest challenges together. We don't always agree, but we do agree that we love this city and it does not need federal troops. Business perspective is that this is not good for our economy. We don't want our retail, hospitality, and vibrancy to be impacted like we've seen in Washington, D.C. We stand united with partners in labor, government, and business behind our local law enforcement. We are grateful for what they do and support them managing our local public safety and have signed on in a letter of solidarity and support. Portlanders have always met challenges with strength and unity. Right now, the most powerful response to the presence of federal troops in our city is not to give into provocation, but to stand together in calm resolve. By refusing to feed into unnecessary conflict and choosing not to amplify division, we show that Portland's identity is stronger than the outside narrative. Our community knows that meaningful change and safety come from working together peacefully and not from escalation. And now, please join me in welcoming Multnomah County Chair Jessica Bega-Peterson.
So good afternoon. Thanks everyone for making time to be here today. I appreciate Governor Kotek and everyone for being here today. I want to point out that we have folks here from so many levels of government. We have the Metro Regional Council, we have Portland City Council, we have Multnomah County Commission, we have state representative, we have the federal delegation, because it is so important to show us in solidarity with law enforcement and the business community that we are very serious about what's happening here and we're standing together opposed to the action that President Trump is taking around Portland. So I will keep my remarks brief today. Today is an absolutely glorious fall day in Portland. It's the type of day that we used to not tell other people about because we didn't want so many people to come here. But it also could not be further from the administration's depiction of our beloved city. Take a look around us. Military intervention is not wanted, it is not needed, it is not lawful. Frankly, it belittles and demeans the real pain, death, and destruction that is happening in war zones around the country that the president should be paying attention to. It is a colossal waste of federal personnel and resources to be sending them here to Portland. What our region actually needs from the federal government is for Medicaid and for our social safety net services. Those are services that Multnomah County will continue to provide in a manner that treats every person with dignity today and every day. The last thing that we need is fear and conflict from our federal government, which is all that this administration is doing right now. I am confident that in this moment, our community will not let this administration divide us. We will show the world who we are in the best possible way, standing strong for our values and caring for our neighbors like always. Thank you.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete.
I think there's other cities out there that probably need the National Guard, because when you compare cities such as Seattle, Seattle is like a bigger, it's like a big brother to Portland. It's only like a 3.5 hour drive from Seattle to Portland. but it's a much bigger city, and they probably have way more crime, way more things that's going on, especially with ICE. And I think the president should probably start sending the National Guard to Seattle instead of Portland, because in my opinion, like I say from the beginning, Portland, I don't think at this point they need the National Guard. Because I lived in Portland for a huge portion of my life. I spent a lot of time in Portland. I went to middle school, high school, and even college in Portland. So I kind of understand how Portland operates, especially a lot of Portlanders. So in my opinion, I don't think the National Guard is needed in places such as Portland.
Okay, so let's now a brief time for reporter questions. And I know that there are members of the public who are here. There are also members of staff who are here as well. So this portion of the program is intended for members of the media so that they can clearly and factually communicate with the public. If the members of the public have any questions for staff, we'll be sticking around afterwards to answer your questions. Before I call on you, if you will state clearly who you are and what publication that you are representing, that'd be great. And we'll start here.
Hi, Joey Land, OPP. I'm wondering, has Secretary Hegseth asked you to deploy the National Guard here in Oregon?
We have had written communication from the Department of War, and we are reviewing that. But I want to go back to my earlier conversations with both Secretary Noem and President Trump this morning. I was very clear with them. We disagree with the premise that we need federal troops here. And at this point, I am not going to be approving any utilization of Oregon National Guard.
Is that what you asked for, Governor?
And we'll start here.
I'm Victor Parkman, KATU. What was President Trump's response to you during those conversations? And also, are you planning to sue the federal government alongside Mayor Keith Wilson, similar to what California did with troops arriving there?
Well, I think this is a very fluid situation, so I'm not going to speak to future actions. My conversation with President Trump was trying to understand his rationale, and I believe it is based on information that is not accurate today. There are protests here, but it is not what we saw during the pandemic where we had significant violent protests. I told him that. He thinks there are elements here that create an insurrection. I told him there is no insurrection here and that we have this under control. I have complete faith in Portland Police and Chief Day to make sure that we're holding people accountable if they cross the line. But we have lawful protests here and we do not need military troops.
I agree with her because I was in Portland in 2020 during the pandemic. And a lot of people in Portland, they were rowdy, they didn't want to stay home. And I was among some of them, but I wasn't the one actually breaking inside a building and stuff. But it got to the point where in Portland in 2020, when I was in Portland, a lot of rowdy people started going inside buildings such as Apple Building, Nike, Louis Vuitton, and multiple luxury stores throughout downtown, just tearing it down and just stealing everything that's inside, just looting a lot of luxury stores. And yes, it made the national news where Fox News, CNN, and multiple other mainstream media picked it up and just portrayed Portland as a place where it's just a war zone. And at that time, I remember also the George Floyd situation happened where it just made things even worse. And then you have other organizations such as Antifa and all these other groups that was actually just pushing this agenda to be able to just, perpetrate this violence that we were seeing in Portland at that time. Yes, it got to the point where the National Guard probably was needed, but I'm pretty sure the protest that's currently happening right now in Portland because of ICE, I don't think it needs the National Guard compared to 2020 during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, yes, it was violent. I was in Portland. I saw that with my own eye when I went to downtown Portland. A lot of building was torn down. A lot of store was basically looted. And a lot of store owners were basically disappointed. But this protest that's happening, I don't think they need a National Guard. And in my opinion, I think the president is probably being deceived by some of the people that he worked with. They're using old videos from 2020 and to basically just, show him how Portland is. And I, personally speaking, based on my own experience, I have family members that still live in Portland right now. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother who still live in Portland. and I lived in Portland from 2006 to 2023. So they're telling me, no, Portland is fine, the city is fine, everything's working as fine. Yes, there's a small pocket of people who are protesting in front of ICE building, and the federal government is probably wanting to send more troops to federal building to protect federal building, which makes sense because during 2020 or during the pandemic, a lot of the federal building were under attack. It makes sense, but at the same time, I don't think sending in a National Guard in Portland is necessary.
It was a request to options that we could utilize Oregon National Guard troops paid by the federal government. I don't believe they're needed. And so I think when you get a request like that, you always have to ask why. Do we need the help? And I can tell you that we do not need federal troops here. We do not need to deploy the Oregon National Guard. Our local law enforcement is on top of this. They are prepared. If they are requesting mutual aid, either from the Oregon State Police or other folks, we will go there next. But at this point, Portland Police hasn't handled.
We took our brand new software company ListKit, sent 10,000 cold emails per day, and hit $108,000.
These are random, minor, a few individuals. People are primarily peacefully protesting here. We do not need federal troops.
Governor Noel Crombie with Oregonian. How long was the call with the president? Was the secretary on that call? And can you just walk us through what the president said when you elaborated on your own concerns about the federal presence here?
Well, like a lot of Americans, a lot of Oregonians, I woke up to.
All right, breaking news.
All right, let's go now.
Welcome in here to Live. Now back to our top story this morning. Reactions are pouring in.
We are on our. Why I got a family we're gonna fucking beat beyond. My goodness.
But we're going to get out.
Well, President Trump is once again.
Breaking news just moments.
Let's go right now to outside the ICE building in South Portland, where our Ariel Saul.
Footage.
Anti-ICE protesters in Portland, Oregon, rolling out a guillotine.
A few moments later.
We're learning here that President Trump is going to be sending troops to Portland, Oregon. Here's what we're learning.
During a tour of Portland's ICE facility Thursday, Oregon's Democratic delegation asked federal officials for clarification around policies. What Senator Jeff Merkley's not down on.
While President Trump says he will be sending.
Live from.
Yeah, Trill and Tiny, that's exactly right. We're at the intersection of 25th and Harvard here in Broadview. What you're taking a live look at right now is essentially a standoff between.
Total loss. Yeah, just a horrible scene that's transpiring. And
Ali, I love you here.
I mean, it's easy to spot me on the court, I bet.
But you've always been like that. See me?
Yeah.
Before you hear me. All done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Not so fast. I love you.
Whoa, man, amazing car. When did you become a millionaire?
What is this for?
We're trying to get advice for the younger generation.
So this is a live march, protests that have been going on in Portland. And I don't think there's any sound, but hopefully there is. Nope. So there's no sound, but let's just take a look at it real quick, and then so this is Southwest Portland. This is a place that I'm pretty familiar with. Right by this area, there's a federal building that's just like a couple blocks away from this area that I'm familiar with because I went to school in downtown Portland at Portland State University. I guess there's no sound to show just how people are actually talking, but I'm gonna try to comment on it as much as I can. So as you can see, yes, there's a lot of people, but there's not really necessary, a lot of people where they're just creating a lot of chaos. And this is just a small portion of downtown Portland. If you've ever been in downtown Portland, you will know what I'm talking about, because downtown Portland is basically separated into Southwest and Northwest. And this is probably like the Southwest area. There's no sound. Yeah. So this is the live footage of the protests that have been going on in Portland so far. And there's a lot of people that's actually went out there. I actually asked one of my brother who live in Portland currently right now to go check it out. And he said almost the same thing. He said, yes, there's people who are protesting in Portland, in downtown Portland exactly, but there's not a lot of them compared to how the media is portraying it to be. And I think there was one that happened, I think, yesterday at night, where it got a little rowdy with the police, where I think an ICE bus was basically firebombed, and it made national news, where even CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and many of the mainstream media picked it up. And once they picked it up, they basically, was informed by the president that the president needs to send in the National Guard to be able to protect the federal building, which it makes sense, but I don't think the president needs to send the National Guard to be able to, pull law and order in the streets of Portland, because I spend a huge portion of my time in Portland, and the street of Portland is kind of safe compared to many other places in America. Let me try to find one that has sound.
First, going to go outside to the ICE building in.
We're taking another live look out at the ICE facility on Southwest Avenue in South Portland right now. We're taking another live look out at the ICE facility on South Avenue in South Portland right now. There is a much larger presence of protesters than we've seen in recent days. It looks like, as you can see on your screen, some protesters burning American flags. So far, things have been relatively peaceful, but we did see one protester being tackled by federal agents and taken into custody earlier tonight. We'll check in once again with Ezra Kaplan.
Yeah, I think burning the American flag is unacceptable, because regardless of what you think about America, whether you like it or not, or you don't like the policy, or you don't like the person who's leading this country, one thing that, I think all Americans should respect is the flag, just because there's a lot of people who have lost their life, who have put a lot of sweat, who put a lot of tear, who basically laid their life to make sure the flag is still standing. And I think burning the flag, the American flag, is kind of like you're spitting on the graves of the people who actually laid their life for this country so we can have the opportunity that we have today. Regardless of what you think about either you're right or left, or you're a Democrat or Republican, the American flag should not be burned, especially in America, by Americans and by American citizens, in my opinion. Regardless of what you think about the president, the current president, or the policies that he's implementing with ICE, I don't think the American flag should be burned, because it's a spit on the face. It's basically spitting on the grave of the people that actually laid their life for this country.
In just a moment. To recap what's happened since yesterday, though, we now know that the United States government has beefed up the presence of federal law enforcement officers in Portland, around the federal building downtown, and at the ICE facility on Southwest Macadam. We're still waiting to see when any U.S. troops will be deployed, and the White House is not giving any details. Local leaders are urging any protesters to remain peaceful despite the threats and to avoid any direct conflicts with federal officers. The couple hundred people who marched there earlier tonight did exactly that.
So local officials held a press conference earlier today speaking against Trump's decision to send federal troops here to Portland.
One of those officials was Portland Police Chief Bob Day, who says his officers have not been facing any challenges when it comes to Portlanders expressing their rights to free speech.
We have had an amazing year of free speech expression, and I have no doubt that will continue. We have had literally tens upon thousands of Portlanders walking the streets, in our parks, expressing their First Amendment right, their opinion, their dissidence with what they're seeing happening on a federal or even a local level. And yet we have not had arrests, we have not had vandalism, we have not had challenges that we have faced in years past. We have a track record that we are demonstrating to one another, and we are demonstrating to the country about how this is being done.
And again, we've been monitoring the ICE facility in South Portland throughout the day.
Yeah, that's where we find Fox 12's Ezra Kaplan. He's been there all day long. Ezra, how is it looking out there right now? Have you seen the situation evolve over the night?
Yeah, not a whole lot of change out here at this point. Still, I would say probably about 100 protesters. I'm going to have Devin give you a look at the scene here. He's just going to show you around. We are seeing a person seems to be burning an American flag right across the street. As you're kind of seeing there is just as much media, maybe a little bit less, but there's a lot of media out here, and there's a handful of protesters. But I think what's really important to understand is that this is really anything from a war zone. As we've said before, there have been times where this area has flared up and there have been confrontations. We also know that the U.S. DOJ has prosecuted, or is beginning to prosecute, at least 25 individuals for federal offenses, for federal crimes that they're charging them with here at the ICE facility. Now, to me, what that means is that the federal justice system is working. There are people who have committed have allegedly committed acts of violence and other things. They're going to court. They're having their day in court. That's how things are supposed to work. And so, I want to show you a little bit of video that I also took earlier today. If we can show that. That is a video that I took of what you'll see is a whole convoy of vehicles coming into the ICE facility. And this is something that we started seeing actually yesterday. Now, Fox 12 was the first to report on the arrival of more. Make sure that he's ready.
So we're just going to transition to Michigan, because I currently live in Michigan right now. I moved from Portland, now in Michigan. And currently in Michigan, there is a shooting that just occurred just like a couple hours ago. And I kind of want to get a little more information on it and just watch it, because it's actually close to where I'm living right now.
So everybody ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Grambling Township Police Chief William Rennie. That's Renye. Here to give you some preliminary details on an incident that happened earlier today at 10:25 a.m. within Grambling Township. First off, I'd like to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident, which is completely unnecessary and avoidable. The incident that we're going to talk about here today
as I said, was happening at 10:25 a.m. at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is located at 4285 McCandless Road. During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. 10 gunshot victims have been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased.
Man, State Farm made $104 billion. Progressive made $61 billion. You think that's by accident?
Officers who,
my condolences go to all the victims and their family for hearing this sad news. It must be really heartbreaking just to know that your family members is among the people who probably either got shot or they're in that building that the shooting happened. And it's kind of sad to see that. America also has a major issue when it comes to gun violence. We've seen that everywhere. We're seeing that in school, we're seeing it in churches, we're seeing it in public, we're seeing it in the streets. And a lot of people are losing their life. And guns is now in the hands of people who should not have guns in their hand, because now they're using their weapon to be able to attack innocent people. There's people who went to church on Sunday and now some of them are injured, some of them are dead now because someone probably did not like the way they're probably operating. It's kind of sad, the time that we're living in today.
were trained, immediately responded to the area. One was a DNR officer, and then one was a Grand Blanc Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect. And that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Burton. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secure. That fire was just extinguished by the Grand Blanc Township Fire Department within the past hour. So where we go from here is we have investigators. We're going to do search warrants on the suspect's residence. We're going to find out if there was a motive. We're going to go through cell phone records, things like that. We have the FBI, they're devoting 100 agents to this area because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of witnesses that were within the church, and that is a lot of witness information statements that we have.